and then, got deployed for a year in 2011. Got married, got deployed for a year, like a month later.
A month after you got married, you were deployed?
Yeah, I mean, my wife already thought I had commitment issues because it took us about 8 years to get engaged, and then we get married and I leave for a year. So, she wasn't thrilled about it, but she knew that I love flying and it was something that I really enjoyed doing, and we didn't have children. She was busy because she's a doctor at the Mayo Clinic. And so, I was gone for a year.
Where were you deployed to?
I was in Iraq. So it was in Iraq, and we were in Taji. I was part of, I did a little bit of flying, not a ton of flying over there. I was in the S3 plans, section of a brigade. So we were primarily charged with the logistics and the planning for getting all of our aircraft active duty. We kind of fell in, there was a lot of active duty, it was obviously a ton of active duty there, but our brigade kind of fell in and replaced the brigades that were there. I think there was 2 brigades left, and all the active guys were kind of just like, we just want to get out of here. So they kind of gave us the responsibility of getting all of the units, including active guys, reducing that footprint and getting everybody out of the country by the previously decided date, which I think was sometime in, I want to say November. Yeah, November of like 2011. So.
And you're talking that extract from Iraq?
Yeah,
or
like slowly close down the different bases. We'd have base closing ceremonies. We got to move you got to figure out how to get all those aircraft out of there. And then also, the ground troops are moving out at the same time. So it's a really, it's a really Herculean logistics effort. It was interesting to do. Yeah.
That's incredible. And again, I don't want to put you on the spot. Obviously, we don't rehearse any of this. So I'm just asking you for your opinion, because I found the footage when we were, doing the final extract from Afghanistan.
Right.
What, you're a pilot, right? You're one of few people that could understand what's going through the minds of these pilots. Can you even imagine being on that tarmac in Afghanistan where you got all these people? And how do you navigate? Okay, we've got people coming in, we're holding off people, we've got people clinging to the plane. Like what would have been, what do you think's going through their head? Well,
I think the situation, essentially what the U.S. was doing in Afghanistan as far as getting everybody out of there was not a lot different than what we were doing in Iraq. Just the circumstances were a lot different.
Sure.
At the time when we were getting out of Iraq, you had a lot of Iranian-backed militias, and you had, kind of smaller units. And there was sort of like there was with the Taliban, but it was like, look, we're not going to shoot at you as you leave because we don't want you to stay. They wanted us out. We kept, we still had State Department people staying there. There was still a good amount of contractors there that were working with the Iraqi government and Iraqi, supporting their aircraft that, either they bought from us or, those types of situations. So, and the government was probably more stable in Iraq when we left. And so we had concerns that something like that might occur as we were doing it. Luckily it didn't. And we got out without any kind of incidents. There were some soldiers that kind of got shot by just random people taking a pot shot at ground troops as they got out. That didn't happen to us. We were on a base in Taji with our aircraft, and basically our aircraft were the last ones out of the country. And then we went into Kuwait, but we still had a lot of contact, and we'd still fly back into Iraq to meet with the Iraqi government and help support their government and military. In Afghanistan, I think it was a much different situation, because when the previous administration had made an agreement with the Taliban, the Afghani government was kind of left out of that. I don't even think they were at the meeting. And so now you've got the Taliban, the way I understand it is they were primarily going around to these different tribal leaders and village leaders and saying, look, you need to be loyal to us, because when the U.S. leaves, then we'll keep you in power, and we're not going to, come kill you guys. But I think when the new administration came in, it was announced how quickly we were going to be getting out of there. that caused a big panic in a lot of the local people. And you had the Taliban coming through the country, essentially, without having to really take a lot of cities or towns. They didn't have to go fight for them. They'd already kind of made agreements that, look, when they leave, we're going to be in charge. There were some exceptions. I know there were some villages where there was fighting and stuff, but I think it just made for a much different situation and a much bigger panic, because in Iraq, when we left, that's kind of when ISIS started getting bigger, but when we were there, it wasn't even really on our radar. We weren't thinking about ISIS. We were thinking about more of these Iranian-backed militias. With the Taliban, they've been around they've been around a much longer time. We've been fighting them for a long time, and they were just kind of waiting for us to leave. So I think they were more organized in the sense that when they came through the country, there was sort of a big force coming through there. When we left in Iraq, that just didn't happen.
Keith, let me ask you this one. 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk, protecting military families. I can't be the only one thinking about this when you said it. The logistics of moving planes, and I know you don't mean literally like on the ground, because I worked at a private airport. I know it's not what you mean.
Right.
Do you literally have to fly planes to America and then come back and get more planes and take them back when you guys were trying to leave Iraq? How did that exactly work?
A lot of the fixed wing assets, the real big ones, I mean, some of them would go to Kuwait, because we were still in Afghanistan. A lot of stuff, some stuff was actually transferred over to Afghanistan. And then a lot of most of the fixed wing have a longer range than the helicopters. So a lot of those assets would get, they might go to Germany, or they might go to European bases. It wasn't as difficult to get planes out at that time. Now the helicopters and stuff, basically those were all just flown out of the country. We just flew them down to Kuwait. And, we've been in Kuwait since the Gulf War. So we have a big footprint in Kuwait. Kuwait government wants us there. So it's pretty well established in Kuwait. So it's still hard because you're dealing with aircraft breaking on the way out. You're worried about, what happens if we're flying out and we've shut down all the bases and we've got to land an aircraft. So you're always flying with multiple aircraft together. That way, if one has to, make an emergency landing or has some issue, you've got another aircraft that can extract the personnel, and then you figure out how to get the aircraft later. So, yeah. But yeah, it's just coordinating all the units and falling back it was challenging.
Didn't sound easy.
Yeah.
That's because when you first said it, I was like, dang, they got to fly them and then come back and get more.
Right.
It just seemed very complicated.
Yeah.
And that's not even including, all of the ground vehicles and all
Yeah.
of the cargo stuff. And
the ground guys, that's, and that's the riskiest one, because they're flying out through, cities and towns because they would generally fall back into the base. Then they would go out, do patrols, and, maybe snatch a high-value target if, at that time when we were still doing operations right up till the day they left. But yeah, they're leaving, and so their biggest fear is that people are going to do exactly what happened occasionally, which just, take pot shots at them. Luckily, there was no, concentrated attack on any infantry units for the most part as they were leaving. They were mostly, like I said, just people taking an opportunity shot at a caravan leaving. So
We take our